Hello, welcome to Bob's Dungeon. My name's Bob, I'll be your host. If you talk to anybody about tabletop role playing games, it's pretty much guaranteed that the first thing that's going to pop in their mind is Dungeons and Dragons. Over the years, there have been 5 editions of Dungeons and Dragons, not counting basic Dungeons and Dragons. And at the time of recording this video, in the future, there is a 6th edition coming out. It's gone through several names, and it doesn't matter what they call it. It's going to be a 6th edition. So, anyway, there has also been a community pop-up called the OSR community, which plays games that use the rule sets for 1st and 2nd Dungeons and Dragons and basic Dungeons and Dragons. And basic Dungeons and Dragons is about the easiest version of the rules that you can find and use. And it allows for very quick gameplay, such as getting through combat faster and so forth. Very, very quick and easy character generation. And some people don't like it because it doesn't give you enough powers or doesn't allow you to become more powerful than what you'd see in later editions of Dungeons & Dragons. But that's part of the charm of it, not being a superhero. And like I said, basic Dungeons & Dragons is about as easy as you can get with the rules. But you can go even easier now. There's a game that came out called the Black Hack that simplifies the basic Dungeons & Dragons rules, makes them faster and easier to do. Unfortunately, I don't have the Black Hack, but the Black Hack has inspired lots of other games to come out using the Black Hack rules. And I've got several of those. Go figure. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video. One of those games. We're going to talk about the Blue Lotus Hack, the Kingdom of Varas. This book has 98 pages and a copyright of 2018. It was published by Fang the Moon Games, and there's really not much artwork to speak of in this game at all, aside from some black and white pictures of what you got on the cover and a map. So we can really forego the artwork this time. To use this book, what you're going to need is, of course, a copy of this book and a full set of dice. Full set of dice containing a 20-sided die, a 12-sided die, preferably 2 10-sided dice, rolling both tens and percentiles, an 8-sided die, a 6-sided die, and a 4-sided die. Character creation in this game is very easy. If you're familiar with the basic rules or D20 in general, you pretty much know how to make up a character in this game with a few tweaks. First, you roll your attributes. There are 6 attributes. They are strength, dexterity, constitution, wisdom, intelligence, and charisma. And you roll 3 6-sided dice and add them together for each of these attributes. And they give you a few ways that you can disperse them or figure up your attributes. So that's pretty neat. You then pick a kind. A kind is your species or race, and there are 5 different ones in this game, or 4 different kinds in this game. There are human, the Mehes, the Vasker, and the Silan. And that's it for races. You then pick a couple of hooks for your character, and these are just small little sentences that you come up with on your own to describe how your character got to where he is at the start. You can also pick an elemental affinity if you wish, and you don't have to, and it'll just make you attune to a certain element and give you bonuses there. You then pick a class. The classes in this game are warrior, Mendicant, Rogue, Savant, Mystic, and Sorcerer. You then pick your starting equipment. You roll 3d6 times 10, and that tells you how many silver pieces you have to buy equipment with. And that is pretty much character generation. This game, it functions just like regular basic with a few changes. Your hit points are determined by what class you choose, and also the damage you do in combat, both armed and unarmed, is determined by the class instead of the weapon. To hit somebody in combat, you roll a 20-sided die like normal, but instead of trying to roll above an armor class that somebody has, you compare it to your strength score, or your strength score for melee, or your dexterity score for ranged combat. And if you score whatever your attribute is or lower, you succeed in hitting. If you roll above that, you fail. 20 is always a critical failure, and 1 is always a critical hit. So that's a little different, but it's still pretty cool. You can still wear armor in this game, but instead of providing you with an armor class, your armor gives you some extra points that'll be depleted from whatever damage is done to you. Once those points are gone, you no longer have access to them until your character rests. After your character rests, he is able to use his armor again to the best of its ability to deplete some of the damage done to you. If you are ever reduced to 0 hit points in combat, then you're considered out of action. You're not dead yet. You're just out of action. And at the end of combat, when you're safe, you roll a d6 and compare it to a chart, and the chart will tell you what happens to your character, whether he was just knocked out, if he has any lasting damage, or if he died. If your character does survive, then you roll a 1d4 and you get that many hit points back immediately. So that's pretty nifty. Like I said, weapons don't have a damage with them. Your character's class determines how much damage you do when armed or unarmed. And that's a little different. But it's kind of interesting. You also have a use die in this system. And what that is some of your items that you have on you will be considered consumables. Stuff like arrows and rations and so forth. And when you use them, you roll whatever the use die is. And if you roll a 1 or a 2 on the use die, then you've used up some of what you have, and you're reduced to the next lower die. So if you have a 6 in your use die and you roll a 1 or a 2, your use die then becomes 4, and then if you roll a 1 or a 2, you've depleted. So that's kind of different. Kind of neat in a way. It keeps you from having to keep track of every single thing, and you just lower your die when it comes time. So that's kind of nifty. This game has a built-in campaign to it, which would be Varas, and it doesn't give you a lot of detail, but it gives you enough to give it a broad look at the world you're in and what's going on behind each of the kingdoms, and you can go from there. You could even use that as a base for a campaign in another game if you wish, if you're not real happy with these rules. But these rules are very simple, very easy to use, which is really neat. Keep things moving pretty fast. If you need a saving throw in this game, you use the appropriate attribute for the saving throw, and you have to roll under your attribute in order to succeed. You roll above it, then you fail. Kind of like in combat. So that's pretty nifty. And that's really about it. It's got a good list of magic spells and psionics. It's got a list of creatures that you can find in this realm, and a list of different magic items, I guess you'd call them, that you can use. Tells you how to make up new magic items, and it's pretty neat. Which brings me to 3 questions. Would I play a character in this game? And I'm going to have to say yes. It's very simple rules. It uses the Black Hack, which is based off of Basic. Basic's probably one of my favorite versions of Dungeons and Dragons. So I guess that makes me Basic. Would I run this game? And I'm going to have to say yes. If I had players that were willing to play, I'd definitely run it. Would I recommend this game? And again, I'm going to have to say yes, I would. The Blue Lotus Hack is a very easy game to play, very easy game to run. You can make up characters very quickly and get going in no time. So, yeah, I'm going to have to say I'd recommend it. And that's pretty much all I got to say for the Blue Lotus Hack right now. Thank you for joining me at a look at this book. And hopefully you'll join me next time where we'll talk about something else. Bye.